Hi, my name is Sarah Hamady, and I attended Pace University's musical theater program from the years 2012 to 2016. Musical theater was always, it felt like the destiny for a kid like me. I grew up in a pretty average suburban town in Jersey. I was definitely the oddball. I was a child that was always trying to talk to other people. My parents have a great story of me in the supermarket with them, age 4, and I was going on such a tangent of singing songs that by the time I looked back to find my dad, I was holding another person's hand that wasn't my parents. I was rambunctious, extroverted. I loved people. I loved music. I was the girl in 2006 making commercials in her room with a camcorder. So theater and art was the only thing that made me feel like me. Growing up, I got a lot of support from my parents. They were not in the arts at all. And so when they saw how passionate I was and how naturally skilled I was, it just made sense that I would take that into a more serious schooling opportunity. I, did theater in my town for the entirety of my childhood up until I was 17. So by the time it reached the moment to make that educational decision, I honestly didn't think twice. It was the only thing I was going to do. Growing up in this rather racially conservative town, thinking about going to a higher level institution for theater was really unknown to the people who were helping me get there. To apply to these colleges, it was under definitely a more traditional theater lens. I was told, well, you're going to have to learn Shakespeare, which I had never done before. And the songs I wanted to sing, it seemed like I would be deterred from doing. And that was something that sat in the back of my mind when I was looking for colleges. I knew that I had a little bit of an edge in terms of what I wanted to be performing. And I knew that that might be a little tricky going into these pretty classic programs like Syracuse or the Hart School of Music, Carnegie Mellon. Those were on my list. And my father, who is just the most supportive in my life, he helped me find some other programs that might pique my interest. And in that process, we found PACE. It was a rather young program. There wasn't a ton of information. But what we did know in researching was that they had this program called PACE New Musicals. And the entire program was centered around these young, diverse artists getting a chance to workshop new musicals. And that literally made my heart sing. It felt like for the first time I was looking at a curriculum that was suiting something for me. And that even if I had to do those traditional musicals, I would have so much more fun doing so because I would have this opposite experience at the school. When we found out that Amy Rogers was the director of the program, I actually purposefully did a pre-college program so I could meet her. We signed me up, I auditioned, I got into this pre-college program, and to me that was the first step in achieving my dreams. I had checked the first box, and honestly, it was a dream. I arrived at this program, I met Amy, she was radiant, she immediately clicked with me. She saw who I was after years of really feeling misunderstood in my young teenage years by people my own age and adults. To have someone look at me and say, "You're special. I see you." It was first. And I immediately felt attached to her. I did everything I could to show her that I was well-rounded, that I was astute, that I was kind. Everything that she talked about her program being, I wanted to be. I completed the program and I auditioned for the school that next year. My audition process was what seems now tainted. In the moment, it was magical. I arrived, I was met with faces of people that I had never seen before. People that looked like me, people that definitely didn't look like me, and that was really exciting. I thought, this is definitely the future of art. This is definitely the dream that I have. And to see her running this audition process, I felt so empowered to be me. Pace was the only school that I didn't wear a dress, and I didn't wear jewel tones like I did at the other conservatory style schools. I showed up accessorized and confident, and I was met with warm regards and warm energy. I felt like this was the start of my future. I felt like this was going to be the start of me finding myself, and that it was going to be the start of me sharing my gifts in a way that would help other people like me who didn't see themselves when they were young. And I felt that this program was going to give me that, and that I would give that to them. My life changed that day, forever. I was in 6th period history with my cell phone in my sweatshirt because I knew that it was going to be the week that acceptances and calls were going out to students. And I did not want to miss that call. So I couldn't even really pay attention this week at school. All I was thinking about was Pace and Amy. I feel this vibration in my sweatshirt. And I literally knew what it was. I quickly excused myself to go to the bathroom, and I answered the phone, and it was Amy. And she just said, "Hi, Sarah. I hope this isn't a surprise, but welcome to the Pace family." That was one of the most exciting days for me that I had had yet. I will never forget that feeling. Part of the reason I loved Pace, other than the Pace musical aspect, was the really centered focus around creating artists that were creating change. It was an investment in the human being, not in the product. That's how it was advertised, and that is how it seemed on the surface. It was a group of extremely diverse intersectional students coming together to create a community and an energy where the art that they would make would literally shake the world. You know, at this point, I'm 17 years old. I was raised in a interfaith, interrace family. I had never seen anyone like me on stage ever. I had never seen anyone talk about being Middle Eastern or Arab in theater. I had never experienced feeling truly understood as an Arab woman. And I really believed that what Pace was offering was the ability to create that for the world. I really believed I was going to go in there and create a space for people like me. I really believed that. I wanted to create the space to be Middle Eastern. And I also wanted to create the space to create anything as a Middle Eastern. I wanted to do dramatic roles. I wanted to do comedic roles. I wanted to do heightened language. I wanted to learn history as this person with this person's perspective. And I knew that had never really been done in an educational setting before. And Amy, knowing me before this program, I really thought that that was also what she wanted, was to put an emphasis on my humanity and to release stereotype. I was naive to think that. I remember the first couple of days at Pace, looking around, meeting people, and, just sort of like taking my bearings in and really establishing the incredible community of people that I was sharing company with. I remember thinking, damn, we are in New York City, where the world exists right outside our doors. All kinds of people, all kinds of lives, all kinds of lifestyles. And we have that here. But what art does, Spaces for Art, what art does is remove those dangerous constructs that the world is not yet ready to face, like the model minority construct, like the tokenism construct, like the stereotype constructs, that we were creating a mini future at this school. And that I was gonna be a part of that future. I was gonna make friends with the next groundbreaking artists who were gonna teach the world through their art and through their existence how to be better human beings. And I remember thinking, this is ahead of its time, this is one of a kind, and that this is protected. I felt like we had a protected energy around us at the start. Part of the freshman year experience is, building your resume in a structured way, how to, format it and make it look nice, and going over your skills and going over what you've done already. And I remember, coming into this room, and honestly now in reflection, it's so clear to me, but at the time seemed really normal for what the industry was. The entire team sitting across from me who was judging and critiquing me was white. And I knew going into this, I could feel that part of this was going to be obviously about the way that I looked, as this industry is. I sit down and they're looking at my resume. The first thing they said, they paraded around for me, was that I was ethnically ambiguous. It was this marketing tool that I could look like anyone and do anything in their eyes, which made me really versatile. And at the time, in 2012, I remember ethnically ambiguous in the industry being a really positive attribute. If you were ethnically ambiguous, you were gonna make money, honey. And that was really exciting. And so to hear this team of people say that to me, I didn't realize at the time was absolute and complete erasure. So they told me I was ethnically ambiguous and that they wanted me to put that on my resume. And as we're going down, at the bottom, I had belly dancing as a special skill. I'm by no means an expert, but I had some moderate training and understanding of it, and it was something I wanted to explore further. When we began to talk about it, the faculty was very straightforward with me. They said that if I wanted to keep it on my resume, I needed to lose weight. And in that moment, I didn't have words to formulate what it was that I felt, but I immediately felt like now there was a task that I had to fulfill. If I didn't fulfill this task of losing weight at 17 years old, that wasn't something I was even really under the understanding that I needed to do to evolve myself as an artist and a human being to tell stories. I was shocked, but immediately Swallowed it. Okay, fine. And, they said commercially, I could really go both ways in this ambiguity. I could really be this strong leading lady, or I could be a character type, which essentially just means tokenist jokes. So, of course, when you're looking at all of these people and they're hinting at the latter is less appealing, you start to frame your mindset around achieving this goal. And achieving Eurocentric beauty standards became the only thing that I was concerned with doing. It was a very conflicting moment for me because I was sitting across from Amy, who I so highly regarded and really cared for. And I was so torn at this sentiment that she was saying to me, that everything I'd thought for the past couple of years of knowing her, what she had told me I was, what she had validated for me in myself, was a way to get me there, to manipulate me into doing something else. And I really started to emotionally crumble from that point on. I felt really conflicted constantly, very confused about how I was being seen versus who I was. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I didn't know what I was supposed to say. It immediately felt like I should just put my head down and continue on. And if I got a critique, I applied the critique. And if I didn't like it, I should go find another business. In the moment, I was really so lost because I was in this really incredibly diverse and beautiful class where there were so many people of color. Even alongside the white students, there were so many of everyone. And to really see the immediate disbursement of those atoms fall, that there really was the white students who rarely got any critique on what they were expected to have. If they showed up as them, that was good enough. Then there was the black students who were immediately critiqued from all sides in an even greater expectation of themselves. And then there was this gray area, this miscellaneous group of people, it felt like. And I immediately realized from that meeting within my first month of school that I was placed into miscellaneous. That it wasn't that everyone was equal and we would start from a base and grow together and change and evolve and move and elevate. It was that we should work fast to get here so that they could be here. And I remember feeling defeat every time I walked into any room. It was really odd that every class we took was taught by pretty much a white professor. It was always a white professor, with such an extremely sensitive and vulnerable group of people and people of color and black students who were trying to learn at a baseline how to be a great version of themselves. Part of classroom is practice and practicing your skills as the person. I remember feeling like I was never really seen as Sarah. I just was seen as, okay, we're gonna sift through all these people and whatever we didn't use, we'll give to Sarah. If all the thin, white, pretty girls got the Shakespeare monologues, if they took all of them up, then maybe Sarah would skip this assignment. If we had a scene to work on and this one really Eurocentrically beautiful student wanted to do the scene, that if all the other males were being used, that Sarah would be the male. And fuck a gender bias. Really, it's that I just never got to practice. I was so hungry and so exhausted just to be seen as myself. It was shocking to me that these teachers literally wouldn't go out of their way to find enough material for the class. I was so stricken with sadness every time I would enter a practice room or a classroom, because I literally felt like with each passing week, I was falling further behind everyone else. And the only ways I could stand out was being crazy, being loud, being funny. I wasn't getting personal attention invested in me as a human being like the other women in my class. I was so quickly labeled as other, but not other enough that they needed to address it. Just other that I could slip through the cracks. And I did. I really did. I entered PACE hungry, excited, vulnerable, open, wacky, but really willing to be great. I wanted so badly to be great. And I wanted someone to see me and see that great and help me refine it. And that's what I really thought I was getting. And I really quickly was met with absolutely concrete disregard for that want. Every time I didn't get a chance in class to perform the things I wanted to perform, or the ways I wanted to deepen my emotional capacity, it solidified a separate truth for me, was that the only way I would be seen was to change who I was. And I did. You know, you could ask anybody that loved me then what I was like. Words that come to mind are hard, rough, loud, annoying, frankly. I was a caricature of who they wanted me to be, just so that I would get any attention. Just so that someone would say, let's give Sarah a shot at something else. And as I quickly acted that way, my mental state matched it. I became hard, unrefined. Just, there was no finesse or it felt like I wasn't beautiful to myself. And so I perpetuated this idea that I was okay with being ugly in all of the terms of the word. I was okay with being pushed to the side. I was okay with getting material that I didn't like or connect to, because that's just what I was gonna do in the industry. That's just how I was gonna be seen. So that's fine. And instead of investing personally in my ideas for the kind of art I wanted to make, I just shut up. My mind started to really become quite rambunctious, very anxious all the time. I was extremely frustrated. I can't even remember some things that I did in class, honestly, because I didn't really do a lot. And if we're talking in terms of truly educational practice experience, I didn't get an education. I didn't get an education in the classroom. Once I had sort of inadvertently given up on classroom practice, I was very eager to be a part of the performance opportunities at PACE. It was, the greatest moment to put everything to use. It was the fastest track to really having the most experience, was to be a part of a full show from top to bottom. I received a lot of feedback and attention in auditions for the shows at PACE. That was where I got I was most seen during those times and regarded for my skills and my talents. And so that was reassuring to me, and it reinforced this idea that I would do anything to do it. I would push down any moral compass, any concern. I would do anything because it was my only way to have experience. And that was the greatest way to meet people in the industry and to further connect with, future colleagues. My first experience was my first year. I got called back for Spring Awakening, and the white creative team of that show decided that they were going to choose this one particular part and make it a person of color. So they double cast it, which doesn't even really happen at Pace, and they double cast it as people of color. And that was when I started realizing I was put in this woman of color box. So if I was in an audition or a callback with white people, I was the other choice. I was choice B. It was most likely going to go to a white student, but they had me there for flair, is what it felt like. And then if I was in a callback with all other people of color, I was always specifically categorized with other Black women. I was the choice there too. It was just like a nod, like, hey, we see you, you know? And Spring Awakening was the first experience for me like that. I was up against literally an entire room of Black women and me. So I automatically felt like, why do I need to be here? If they're going to give it to these women, they should give it to these Black women. And that started a line for me. My next experience was one by happenstance. It was 11 p.m. one night, and the previous day, the cast list for Once on This Island had gone out, which is a show entirely for Black students. It takes place in Haiti. And I got a call from a mentor at the time who was also a faculty member at Pace, who I really thought saw me and understood me and loved me and cared for me in a special way. And I got a call from him saying that there was sort of a casting emergency, and they needed someone to be the swing for Once on This Island. And this would have been my first main stage opportunity as a sophomore. And it's really so distressing to think about that I didn't think about it at all. I was like, yes, of course. I will swing, which means learn and practice all of the lead roles for Black students. I will learn them, and I will be the backup if you need me. And that was my first performing experience at Pace. And I am deeply ashamed that I was a part of that production. I was somewhere where I shouldn't have been. It's a deep regret that I have. The next performance opportunity I was a part of was a Pace musical. It was called Great Wall, written by Kevin So, who's a really fantastic artist and musician. He was coming into the school to workshop his musical. That was about a immigrant Chinese family. And it was going to be the first opportunity for the Asian students at the school to have a project that was for them. And this was what solidified my tokenism at Pace University. I was cast in this show entirely of Asian people. I was a part of a narrative that had nothing to do with me. I was learning what it is that I was learning skills that weren't helping me. I was being given opportunities that essentially after the moment would disappear into thin air. Me as Sarah, the art that I can create will not involve appropriating other people's narratives. I was so needy and hungry for opportunity to be seen where I felt like I wasn't being seen. And I took those opportunities to say yes to things that I wouldn't say yes to now. I can never take that back either. The next production I was a part of at Pace was another main stage called The Pajama Game. Quickly, for reference, it's a show about people working at a pajama factory in 1953. There's no need to make it very specific. There's no need to do it, because if we're creating a new world where the students at the school are going to be seen, heard, appreciated, and valued, to put the mass amounts of students of color really in jeopardy, to expose them to a time in our world that was extremely violent and racist, felt really mishandled. It was explained to us in the breakdown that essentially, saying it without saying it, that everyone was going to be white, except for a couple of people in the ensemble. I was honestly surprised when I was cast. I didn't know too much about the exact character that I was, but I soon found out I was the comic relief. I was the joke. And that was pretty consistent with what I had experienced thus far at Pace. Sarah couldn't be pretty or soft or romantic or kind. She was funny and loud and harsh, and her abrasiveness will make you laugh. So let's use it. I actually had a lot of pushback with that director because we really disagreed about who the character was. He really wanted her to be a caricature of a human being, whereas everyone else lived in realism other than the people of color. There were 4 people of color in that production. Me, another Middle Eastern woman who was also a caricature of a human being. She had big bushy brows, and her hair was really big and frizzy. And she was funny as well. We were the comic reliefs of the show. And 2 Black people. And they were paired together, and they had no lines. And again, I felt so lucky. I felt so lucky to be able to, what I felt like was breaking a mold. It was made clear that there would be no funny business in the show. It would be traditionally done. The romantic story would be told by white characters. And if there was a laugh or there was a joke, it would be by the others. And it was. That's how we did it. The last production I was in at Pace was my senior year, and it was American Idiot. American Idiot is a deeply double-edged sword for me. It was the greatest experience of my educational career. It was directed by the most wonderful person, Leslie McDonnell, who changed my outlook on myself, truly. I was cast as Extraordinary Girl. At the surface, she's a Middle Eastern woman. So it was the first time I was ever going to be playing my own race at the school. I was so looking forward to it. It was music that fit me like a glove. It was energy that I was ready for. There was a widely diverse cast, and I was excited for us all to be together in that. These realizations about American Idiot really didn't hit until much later, about why the faculty was choosing these shows. It seemed so purposeful, but in reflection, it just seemed like nonchalance. They didn't think about it enough. All the women in that show had no lines, no names. All the men were named. They had lines, dialogue, and song, and the only purpose for the women was to enhance the male narrative. When I think about what I really did there, it really haunts me because I was portraying my race. I was a Middle Eastern war nurse taking care of a wounded soldier whose only purpose was to serve as a sex dream for him. I said no words. I sung a song that sounds depicted orgasms as he relives his sex dream. At the end, you realize I was never really there at all. I was a dream. And that's pretty much my reality at Pace. Was I really there at all? My last experience performing was in the senior showcase class. I was really excited to end on a high note. I thought I was going to go in there and choose my own material with the help and guidance of the faculty, portray what I wanted to portray, really come out with a bang, meet the industry with bright eyes and a big smile. I was resilient. I felt excited to do that. It was a time to finally focus on the me and who I was and what I was ready to show. That was really quickly dissipated. I followed a similar pattern to my performance opportunities, where I was essentially Pace University's racial swing. I was assigned material with every race other than my own. And with every mindset other than mine. I was never allowed to tap into me. I think I'm a really sensitive, vulnerable, kind, soft, romantic, funny person. And I thought I was going to explore human beings and portray human beings who met that standard. I was appropriating more races. I was only singing roles assigned as other races than my own. I was never given the chance to sing a pretty song, and it wasn't for a lack of trying. I became my worst fear. My worst fear was to lose myself, and I did. I let all of the stereotypes of the world, the erasure of the world that I thought this program didn't believe in, I let them change me. I ended up performing a package for my senior showcase that deeply disturbs me to this day. It doesn't exist online. You can't find it. I pushed other material so hard and was met with such resistance. It's important to talk about this particular song. I sang this song from Women on the Verge of a Breakdown. The line in the song that she says in this really exaggerated Latin accent is she's telling her friend about this guy that she's been dating named Malik. And she goes through all of these different ways she explains Malik. And she says, I can feel my heart exploding like some kind of bomb, which is actually ironic because I think he does have a bomb. And to really sit with the fact that as I was appropriating someone else's culture, I was filling a very harsh stereotype of my own culture. And Middle Eastern men who are soft and gentle and kind. My father is an amazing person. He's none of the stereotypes that America makes him out to be. And that I was advertising myself as someone who did that. I'll never forgive myself for that. I'll never forgive myself for that. What's really disheartening to think about, actually, is that even as I sit here and speak to you, I imagine the faculty watching this video, and honestly, I think they probably would think to themselves, what does she have to say? I was so suffocated there that I started to question my own gut, my own intuition that I had spent a lot of time fostering. I had spent a lot of time trusting. And I truly, truly lost my own trust in myself. I believed what they believed. And if they thought it was enough, that they had given me enough, that I should be full. I don't think I can ever fully get that back. It's sad because the truth is I never really found my voice in school. I never had the perspective that I wanted to have. I didn't know what I was saying as an actor. I didn't know who I was. And so I fulfilled that sick prophecy of being a caricature of everything to fulfill nothing. Coping is an odd word for someone that likes to think they're in touch with their emotional state. For the 4 years at Pace University, I rejected the idea of self. I hardened my layers with passing time. I calloused so deeply that I don't even think I could have gotten in touch with my thoughts if I wanted to. I didn't like who I was, actually, at all. I didn't like who I had become. I was so ever-changing in the worst ways. I would be anything for anybody at any time. You wanted me to be funny, I'll be funny. I'll be loud, I'll be funny. At my expense, at others' expense. You want me to be old, play the old girl? Sure, absolutely fine. I'll do the scraps, the extras, the things you just want to see. That'd be fun. Let's see her do that. That's fun. I would fluctuate so greatly at any time to be anything for anyone. At the time, I thought it was versatility. I told myself I was versatile because I was everything else and nothing to me. I was a different weight every year. I had a different personality every year. Whatever I thought would get me seen. Whatever I thought would validate the idea that I was a part of anything. That's how I coped. The result at the time is very different than the result now. I wish I could say it was really great after, or that there was an immediate change. The residual damage of me losing myself for 4 years, I'm still taking those layers off, to be honest. What it gave me was an awareness of just how quickly you can lose yourself. That fear is at the front of my mind a lot. It affected how I think deeply. It affected me forever. What I want to say to these people who have hurt me and many people, I am not a misfit. You are misinformed, and that is not my mistake. Healing is a really special word, I think, for a lot of people. Healing can seem taboo, or it can seem really visceral, but healing is a verb, and I will forever heal from this, as will my peers. Because as I'm sitting here emotional about my experience, ultimately in a white supremacist, racist world, is not the worst. Is not the worst. My privilege, being close to whiteness, has afforded me many opportunities to glance in the other direction. It has also forced me to erase myself a little bit. So what is healing to me? Healing is honoring myself. It is putting a focus on the me in the now. I go to therapy every week. My mental health affords me deep solace. It allows me to be the best for the people in my life who were there for me when I needed them the most. It affords future Sarah the opportunity to be the best artist, storyteller, musician, activist, human that I can be. Healing offers me a fresh start. I'm working on it. But I love me now. So I'm starting. I just need to say this. The people that I met from Pace University are true soulmates. I believe energy is the reason for our existence, and the energy that these people hold is extremely powerful. I hope that I can provide the energy to help other people love themselves in my art, in my life. But I want to thank particularly the people closest to me who have kept me alive, truly have kept me alive through their love.